Thanks for joining us. After 2 years in Israel of waiting, yearning, and fighting to get back hostages kidnapped by Hamas-led militants on October the 7th, 2023, the moment, it seems, has come. They are heading home. So it is Monday morning in Israel, 8 a.m. Hostage families and their supporters gather right there in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square and in front of the military base where the hostages are expected to arrive in anticipation as Red Cross vehicles, as you see there, move through Gaza to receive the first group of captives from massed Hamas fighters who have been mustering in Gaza. More hostages are expected to follow in the coming hours. We're not clear how many will be released in the next few minutes or what later on means, but all 20 are expected to come out today, certainly in the next few hours. We, of course, will have full coverage tonight and through this morning, starting with Margaret Evans, our senior international correspondent who's in Jerusalem. Margaret, can you walk us through what we know about this process, what is about to happen?
Very much a work in progress, Adrienne. It has changed a few times, but as you say, we have seen Red Cross vehicles on the move in Gaza. We saw pictures of them leaving the Red Cross offices in Gaza City. We believe that there are 3 different pickup points, and they will be then transferred to a reception center in Gaza. We have seen pictures of helicopters outside Reem. That's where the reception center is. It's a military base in the center of Gaza, but to the east of it. We also saw today a video message by a woman named Vicky Cohen. She's the mother of a young man, 20-year-old Nimrod Cohen. We interviewed her earlier this year. She basically was just saying how excited she was. She said she didn't sleep all night. And of course, many Israelis haven't slept all night. We caught up with the ones who were determined to stay in the square yesterday morning. Have a listen at the back at the last 24 hours.
In Israel, anticipation had been growing since early morning. Crowds gathering in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square, willing their return. Relatives of both the living and the dead.
I think that I have been, in a way, preparing myself for this moment for the past 2 years.
Udi Goren's cousin, Tal Haimi, was killed on October 7th, 2023. His body taken from the kibbutz he was trying to protect to Gaza.
For us, the best case scenario is getting Tal back home for burial.
The International Committee of the Red Cross is once more handling the exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian detainees.
Families on both sides for 2 years have not had information on the whereabouts, the welfare, the safety and health of their loved ones.
250 Palestinian prisoners are due to be released from Israeli jails, and 1,700 Gazans detained by the Israeli army during the war without charge will be returned to a world they may no longer recognize, to flattened cities and dead loved ones and an uncertain future. This is the chaos that greeted some of the first aid trucks allowed into Gaza, unsafe and undignified. I really hope the deliveries can be handled officially and handed to people. I can't do it like this, says Diaz Zoreb. I could be run over by a truck. Experts say the only way to avoid scenes like these is to flood the strip with help.
Civilians are also very desperate. They have been put in positions where they are forced to do whatever they need to do to survive.
Armed Hamas security forces have continued to appear in Gaza to help keep order, they say, their presence raising fears the truce could collapse. In Tel Aviv, Udi Goren says he'll work to make sure that doesn't happen.
Making sure that I do anything I can in order to have an influence over this plan, the Trump plan, that actually proposes a better future for this region, for Israelis and Palestinians alike.
The Red Cross, Adrienne, is describing this as a multifaceted operation. And as we speak, the Reuters news agency is reporting that one of the Red Cross convoys has reached its first point. In terms of the hostages being released, Hamas has confirmed the list of names of the Israeli hostages. They are all men. Some of them are soldiers. Some of them are men who were at the Nova Music Festival when they were taken prisoner. There are 2 sets of brothers on this list. And of course, as I mentioned, families are heading for the reception center, selected members of the families, to try to be there when this operation gets underway.
Margaret, you know, we're looking on one side of the screen here at you and the other side of the screen at Hostages Square. But a few moments ago, we were looking at pictures in Gaza. There, you see them there right now. And I see all these armed men. And we've seen a lot of pictures of armed, either members of Hamas, various militia, various gangs in Gaza. And you think a couple things when you see it, which is that Hamas has not gone away and the weapons have not gone away. And Hamas is making a real show of force on this day with this hostage release. What are you reading into this?
Well, you know, the Israelis were very adamant. That they had insisted that Hamas should not subject the hostages to the kinds of scene we've seen on the previous hostage releases, where they were just swamped, enveloped by crowds of people along the way. Now, what we were seeing on the TV screens, on the feeds, looks very orderly, but there are a whole lot of chairs out there. There are buses waiting, and Hamas fighters standing in a row. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen there. We're not seeing huge crowds of ordinary people on the streets. But certainly Hamas is trying to send a message to the world, to Israel, to Gazans themselves as well, that they are still there. They are much diminished militarily, but they have also been continuing to recruit throughout this war. And one of the negotiations that is going on, or will be going on, is how can Israel convince them to disarm? And to what measure would they be asked to? For instance, there's been some talk, getting rid of their heavier weapons, their ability to shoot rockets into Israel, again, much diminished this. But, you know, the argument being, and our videographer spoke with the Hamas spokesman a couple of days ago, who said, we believe that we need to keep our personal weapons, we need to keep our weapons to defend the Palestinian people. And I think, of course, over the next few days, you're going to see Hamas arguing that it has the right to be one of the representatives of the Palestinian people, even though it has said publicly that it knows it will not be part of any kind of administration governing Gaza, but it is making the argument that it is a resistance movement and should be given some consideration. In terms of the dynamics on the ground right now in Gaza, there have also been clashes between Hamas and rival clans, and in particular a big crime family that Hamas has said has been supported in some actions by Israel. And so it gives you a sense of the internal dynamic there and the potential for a lot more violence internally, in addition to what Gazans have already been through over the past 2 years.
All right, that is Margaret Evans in Jerusalem. I know we'll be talking again when we start to see some of these hostages emerge. Thank you, Margaret. Now, one of the things that is happening is when the hostages come out and when they get an opportunity to get some rest and go to a reception center, they will get a welcome package, if you will. It will include everything from a cell phone to a tablet to all the toiletries you could imagine. Certainly they'll have medical care. But they're going to find a note from Israel's prime minister in there as well. And I think we have the note effectively said, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah have added a personal message for the returning hostages to the welcome kits that we've just been talking about that have been prepared for them. And the message reads, on behalf of the entire people of Israel, welcome back. We've been waiting for you. We embrace you, Sarah and Benjamin Netanyahu. So that is just one of the things that they will read. They've missed a lot in 2 years. Their families are going to take their time talking to them, listening to them, and explaining to them what has happened. We've spoken with some family members, Itzhak Horn, for example, who's a father. Both his sons were kidnapped. One was released in February. Another is supposed to be coming out today. He says he has still not been able to ask his son, who came out in February, what happened, because his son hasn't been ready and says he won't talk about it until he sees his little brother again. So this is all going to take time. Once more, that is Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, clearly filling up. Those people have not slept all night long, not slept in a long time. Crystal Gumansing is in that crowd somewhere. I'm hearing lots of applause. What, every now and then, why are they applauding?
They are applauding because they're cheering. The Red Cross is saying they've received the first 7 hostages. They are in the care of the Red Cross currently. So the cheers here were just people erupting with jubilation to know that 7 individuals now of the 20 living hostages are in the hands of the Red Cross, that initial handover. So the crowd cheering, tears starting to flow. I'm joined right now by Amos. Amos has been here continuously for a number of different protest rallies demanding the release. Now with the release, he has a good friend who had a cousin who was taken captive on October 7th, and that individual unfortunately is known to have died in captivity. But Amos joins me now. Those initial 7, the big cheers, you turned around and clapped. I see it on your face. Express to me right now how you're feeling.
I'm very thrilled. You know, I'm so happy at this moment. I can see the happiness on your face, and it's making me also very moved to see that all over the world is watching right now. Us, the Israeli people, are so happy that the war is over and the hostages is coming back. But also, I need to say that this moment is very happy, and we are so thrilled and relaxed right now. But we are also remembering that half of the hostages are coming back dead. And also that the ones that will come back have to undergo through a very stressful, very long recovery process. So this is mixed feelings. We are very happy right now because they're coming back. In this moment, I can see them in the screen. But we know that we have a long way to go until we can feel that Israel is going back to its normal course, hopefully with a different government. Because this government, I'm sorry to say, started this war that was very legit. It was very important for us to defend ourselves from this horrible terrorist organization called Hamas. But after a few months or 1 year after we killed Sinwar, you know, the head of the Hamas, the rest of this war was only from political reasons.
You had said that you're happy for Israelis, but you're also happy for Palestinians. There's a lot of suffering that you said shouldn't have happened.
Yes. You know, there is like 40 hostages that were killed in the last year in Hamas hands. We could save them because this deal was on the table 1 year ago. We could seal the deal, but we stayed in this war because our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who got the booze, you know, the booze that he had 2 days ago. Yes, right here in this, because when Witkoff was speaking, you know, this booze was to tell the whole world, we are not our government. He continued this war, and the suffering of our people and the suffering of the Palestinian people was only so he could stay in power with his extreme right wing, his government, you know. And we're gonna do whatever we need to do, as long as we need to do it, to take him off power.
But today, watching the screen, waiting for the rest of them to come, there is that relief.
The heart is expanding. We are so happy. Also because the hostages coming back, but mainly because this war is over and maybe now we can bring peace to the Middle East and we are happy that we are very early in the rally. We understood that we need to have the world to come with us, the United States and the Europe and Canada come with us and manage to pressure our government. And this deal right now is because of President Trump and the world. It's not because for our Prime Minister, sadly. I'm very sad to say that, but this is the reality.
I'm so grateful of you sharing your thoughts with us this morning. I'll let you get back to your friends and your family. I know that they're anxious to have you beside them to watch the rest of it.
Thank you very much for your attention. It's very important for us, the people in Israel, to build our country like a vibrant democracy, like you have in Canada and like you have in Europe and all over the place. We want to be like this. We want to have peace with all our neighbors, the Palestinians, the Jordanians, the Lebanon, in Syria, and Saudi Arabia, even Indonesia. We want to have peace with everybody. Please help us to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. I appreciate it. So, Adrienne, there's a bit of an understanding of just the desire for peace. You know, right now I'm staring and looking at a giant sign that says peace upon Israel, but many people, including Amos, wanting peace for not just Israel, but right across the region. Music right now, singing, telephones up, those at least 7 hostages of the 20 living hostages now in the hands of the Red Cross. They will then be turned over to special forces of the IDF and make their way to a medical, get some attention, and into the arms of their loved ones who are anxiously awaiting to say hello. Adrienne, it's a little bit loud here, but I'll toss it back to you.
Okay, that's a very good call. I know what it's like when it gets loud in that square. That's Crystal Gamansing for us in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. So you heard the news there. 7 of the living hostages have been handed over to the Red Cross. The Israeli television station I-24 is reporting that the health condition of those 7 hostages is, quote, normal. That is a word that is going to mean a lot to the people who are waiting for them. The terrible fear had been that they would be in extremely rough condition. It is possible some of them are. Some of the others we haven't seen yet will be in very rough condition. But to imagine that after 2 years, after what they have endured in the tunnels, presumably we've seen some evidence of torture, certainly of starvation, that they could be anywhere close to normal in health will be extraordinary for a lot of people. We do not yet know the names of those 7 hostages. That will matter enormously to people on the ground. The fewer hostages there are left, sadly, who are alive, the more people know their names and know their stories. So they're very connected to them. Want to head down the highway from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Margaret, again, any other updates you can offer us now?
We're just hearing the same updates that you are down here, Adrienne. That 7 hostages have been handed over. That leaves 13 to go. The Hamas spokesman did confirm earlier that the names of the living hostages that would be released. Of course, there are also the 28 dead hostages whose remains are expected to be returned. That was a part of the initial truce, and there had been hopes that they would be returned at the same time. What we're hearing now is that the remains that they have been able to locate will be returned this evening, returned to Israel for burial. There will be a religious ceremony at the border, we believe. Unfortunately, for some families, they're not going to be getting the remains of their loved ones back yet. Hamas has said that it's difficult to locate the remains in some cases because of the level of destruction that they lie beneath this battleground that's taken place. But, you know, from people with living hostages returning and with those who are waiting for their remains, a lot of the emotions are similar in that they have been even those who know that their loved one isn't coming home, have been very much a part of the fight to get the hostages, the living hostages, back, and have said they don't feel that they can mourn their dead until all of the hostages come back alive. I spoke with a man yesterday called Udi Goran, who said even though he felt he'd been preparing for this moment for 2 years, he wasn't sure he was prepared. His way of dealing with it was to keep busy. And one of the things he said was that in the future, what he's going to be doing is trying to make sure that this Trump plan that exists actually does come into play. He said, he's talked about American leadership versus Israeli leadership. There's an echo of the guest that Crystal was speaking with earlier there. Amongst the hostages, a real unhappiness, a real disdain for the way in which the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has progressed. A lot of people will say that the deal that's on the table now is very similar to the deal that was on the table in May, at least in terms of the truce, the ceasefire, and the hostage and prisoner exchange. So, it is a chance, I suppose, as Crystal was talking to her guest, that it could be a turning point. On the other hand, there is so much anger and rage involved as well on both sides. And one of the things that Udi Goran said to me is, I asked him, I said, he said, I want a peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He's somebody who is willing and mentally able to go down the road to potentially a two-state solution. But he said it can't happen now. People can't grapple with that notion now. They need to move beyond what's happened. You and I were based here together during the Second Intifada. The healing takes a long time here, and this is really unprecedented in terms of this conflict, what's gone on over the past 2 years. So it's going to be taking time, and that's why many people are looking ahead to see what Donald Trump might say. There's a lot of concern on the Palestinian side that Donald Trump favors Israel's position, that Trump is mainly concerned with the hostages and not so much their fate. And so that raises questions about whether the pressure, people say, that needs to be kept on Hamas, on Israel, to keep going forward with this plan, which is very ambitious. It's a blueprint rather than a detailed plan. But the question is, will the Americans keep that pressure to bear to get to a point where they are talking about these thornier issues that really have thwarted, peacemakers, Israeli and Palestinian alike, since the 1990s?
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking generations of people who have wanted some of the things that are on that list that is being discussed later today in Egypt and haven't been able to see it yet. And when we were both there recently, one man was telling me, one of the survivors was saying that he thinks this is a generational change, that it will take people who do not have, tactile memories of October 7th and what's happened in Gaza since, to actually be able to press ahead. That if you have those memories, it's going to be very hard to forgive and very hard to forget and very hard to move forward. So there's a huge task ahead. You mentioned Donald Trump. He is due to land in Tel Aviv in, I think, probably just under an hour. He will then meet with hostage families, whether hostage families who'd been released earlier. I think the ambition had been that he would meet with some hostages, so possibly some released in the first or second round. He will address the Knesset, and then he's gone. Then he's gone to that one-day summit in Egypt, and we'll see what they can accomplish in that one day. Margaret, thanks very much. It is, just to bring everybody up to speed, it is 8:23 a.m. In Israel at the moment, and in Gaza. This is a picture of Hostages Square. If we have the capacity to show you the picture from Gaza, forgive me if we do not. There it is. A few more crowds are gathering. It is relatively orderly, but Margaret made the point earlier that on the edges of that frame, there are many, many chairs placed. Is that a preparation for a release ceremony? The very thing Israel said it didn't want to see happen? We will see. What we do know is that 7 Israeli hostages have now been transferred to the Red Cross, which means they are on their way to the IDF. Once the IDF has them, they will cross back into Israel to the Reem military base. They will reunite with their families. They will be put in military transport helicopters and taken to hospitals, and the healing can begin for so many people. There's much more ahead from Gaza and Israel. We're back in 2. Welcome back. You're looking at pictures of Gaza. We now know that 7 Israeli hostages have been handed over by Hamas to the Red Cross in Gaza. What you're looking at there, you see the chairs on the upper left-hand side of your frame. Was that for a release ceremony? Is that for a ceremony to come? Is that for something to happen after? We are unclear. There has been a show of force there from Hamas. Lots of masked men and guns making the point that they are still there. They are still to a degree in charge, diminished, yes, but gone, not at all. We're going to keep an eye on what is happening in Gaza, but importantly as well, what is happening when those hostages are transferred into Israel. We get a sense of precisely who they are and how they're doing. While we look at this, let's keep thinking about Gaza. We've reached Yusra Abu Sharek, who is a Gaza program coordinator for INARA. That is the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance. This is a group that has been doing so much work for Gazans in Gaza. We've reached you in central Gaza. Yusra, what is happening where you are this morning?
Yeah, actually, the situation in South Gaza, where the majority of people were recently displaced after the recent invasion to Gaza City, is very unclear, and people have mixed feelings from like happiness. They have this level of being happy for this war to end, but also they are uncertain about their future and about their plans, especially after some of them returned to Gaza City after the withdrawal, and they found that nothing is remaining in Gaza City, and the infrastructure is damaged, not only in Gaza City, but also in East Khan Yunis, where the huge destruction and damage make it so difficult for them to start or readjust or rebuild even. So people either like in Gaza City or in South, they have very mixed feelings. But they are so hopeful for this time to be permanent so that they can choose and decide how the future would look like for them, especially for children who were experiencing very complex and deep trauma after 2 years. Yesterday, I was an assessment visit in Khan Yunis, and I saw the level of destruction, and I was shocked by a group of kids playing with ballots, and they collecting war remnant, and they play with them. Imagine after 2 years of facing all kinds of fear and hunger, bombardment, and losing of normalcy. Now the only thing they have to play with is the war remnant, like ballots and cases of ballots. So it's not the ending, it's just the start for a very complex chapter to rebuild, to heal, and to support Palestinians in Gaza to have access to every single need they are now in need for.
I would imagine, Yusra, that as an organization that is trying to help people, there must be a part of you that doesn't even know where to begin, because looking at the pictures of people trying to go back to their homes, they can't even find where their streets used to be. What sort of challenges are you facing, even if aid does start to flow at a faster pace than it has been?
Yeah, actually, it's not about only the destruction of buildings, but also the infrastructure. So the humanitarian and the civilian infrastructure is harshly damaged after 2 years of the violence. So the challenge we have is the premises, the destruction of premises, the lack of storage capacity. So also the information system. So we as humanitarian aid organizations should work very hard and closely in coordination to ensure that these aids are timely and quickly dispatched to the people, to the community, on time and impartially, and most importantly in dignity, because now people, as I said, they are desperate. They are in need for everything from shelter items to health to water and food. So we should work together to absorb and to increase the community engagement so that they would not be angry of either us as a humanitarian aid workers, because when I talk to people these days after the ceasefire, I also realized that the level of anger inside Palestinians is very high. Maybe because it's too late, they lost too much, and they cannot bear any additional layer of suffering. But to me, what was shocking is the level of anger that make the happiness and the feeling of joy is not obvious very well, and they couldn't feel the excitement of this ceasefire, especially for children who are at the first time in January 2025, they were so excited to return to their neighborhood and to their areas. But now, unfortunately, they don't have this excitement.
Okay, Yusra, I really appreciate you spending that time with us, and please be safe, and best of luck in the days ahead with your work with INARA.
Thank you.
All right, there's much more ahead from Gaza and Israel just ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, let's bring you up to speed here. We now know that 7 Israeli hostages have been handed over to the Red Cross in Gaza. They are on their way back to Israel. At the same time, all 1,966 Palestinian detainees who were slated to be released have boarded buses at Israeli prisons. So this is happening. What we can tell you about the 7 Israelis is that they are described firstly as being in normal health. That is astonishing. Let's see what that means. And we do have some names. One of them is Guy Galbo Dalal. This is a young man who was taken from the Nova Music Festival with his very best friend, Aviatar David. They were held partially together. They had to witness other people being released in January. Then they were put back into the tunnels. We know that the 28-year-old twins, Gali Berman and Ziv Berman, have also now been released amongst that first group. A 25-year-old, Eitan Moore, he was working as a security guard at the Nova Music Festival. He helped evacuate people who were injured in the attack, saved dozens of people, according to his family, before he himself was abducted. These are just some of the people who have been released. Their faces being hoisted above the crowds here in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, where Crystal Gumansing is right now. Crystal, the tone must be changing there by the moment.
It really is, but the thing that hasn't changed is the level of excitement and the loud cheers anytime those pictures flash across the screen. This space is just absolutely full. We have seen it like this before, but it's definitely a much lighter mood. There is music. They're just saying that a new day will rise. And so this is a sense of relief, a sense of joy. But as we have heard from so many individuals, they are waiting to make sure that this war does in fact end. The return of the hostages, the 20 living, as well as the remains of the individuals who died in captivity, and the exchange of the Palestinian prisoners is just phase 1. Phase 2 is to get underway as soon as the exchange is complete. We have heard from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we have heard from the Israeli President Isaac Herzog, and we have heard from people here that the war is over. They've accomplished the goals of the war, which the main one was to return the hostages. And people here say that is not the result of the government, that is a result of pressure of regular Israelis taking to the streets, filling this square every single weekend, demanding their release. while there's jubilation here, while they're all lifting their phones and taking pictures and hugging, there is a level of frustration and anger towards the government, and they say they will want answers. And that is a part of this whole process for them. But for today, they're focused on the screens and the release of the hostages.
Oh, Crystal, you're so right. I mean, a day for joy, but accountability will not be forgotten by the people who are in that square. They have very serious questions for the leadership of Israel about exactly what has happened in the last 2 years, what happened before the last 2 years, what happened that led to that horrific intelligence failure of October the 7th that the military has acknowledged was a failure. They need a commission of inquiry. They've been saying, likely saying this since October the 8th. They've always been told they must wait for it until the hostages are home. Well, today they're coming home. They are going to hold the government accountable until they get those answers. We have much more from Gaza and Israel just ahead. Stay with us, please. Welcome back once more. This is Hostages Square. We have some information for you now. We now know, yes, first 7 living Israeli hostages have been released to the Red Cross. It means they are on their way now to Reem, the military base. We know all the names of all 7 who've been released. Let me tell you a little bit about him. 25-year-old Eitan Mor. He was working as a security guard at the Nova Music Festival. His family say that he saved dozens of people before he was abducted, including when he was attempting to rescue the body of a girl. There's a young man named Guy Galboa Dalal. This is a young man who went to the Nova Music Festival with his very best friend, Aviatar David. They've been friends since they were little kids. They were abducted together. They were held largely together for most of the last 2 years. Terrible scenes in January of them. They were put in a car by Hamas, sent to one of these release ceremonies. They saw their friends being released, and then they were told, not you two. And they went back to the tunnels where they have been for the last 10 months. Not quite 10 months, sorry, about 8 months. What is of a concern is that Aviatar David is not on the list of the first 7 who've been released. So where was he held? At what point were they separated? So many questions to come for their families. 28-year-old twins, Gali Berman and Ziv Berman, they were separated very early on, but their brother says he suspects they can still sense each other, that twins have that very special bond. 22-year-old Matan Angres, he's an IDF soldier, one of a few. He was kidnapped from a tank on October the 7th, and he's the oldest of 4 kids from a town near Haifa. Then there's 48-year-old Omri Moran. He is the oldest of the hostages to be released today. He's a therapist. He was taken from his home in Kibbutz Nahal Oz. His father has been telling the Times of Israel that he's been smiling ear to ear, but he knows that Omri has 2 young girls who were very, very young when he was taken, may not know him in a sense or have any memories of him, but their mom has been teaching them about him. They've been drawing pictures, and so in some ways they'll get to meet him today, they hope. And then last of the 7 being released, Alon Ohel, who's 24 years old, someone else who was at the Nova Music Festival. His parents are very concerned. They believe that he has shrapnel in his eye and that he may have lost vision in his eye. All of these people will be taken to the Reem military facility. Again, that is just effectively adjacent to the Nova Music Festival site where many of them were before they were abducted, before they tried to run for their lives and were snatched and taken into Gaza. They won't be there for very long. They will be assessed very quickly, then meet with a primary family member or 2. There is a real fear about overwhelming people because they may not have even realized that they were being released until suddenly they found themselves in the hands of the Red Cross. So who knows what they have been through. Then immediately they will be taken to one of 3 hospitals in central Israel. We've been told that their condition is normal. I don't know entirely what that means. They're not using terms like serious though, so that is a good sign. Perhaps these are the healthiest of the 20 hostages to be released. But what the doctors have said repeatedly is that they learn that over time, some of the injuries from this sort of captivity, the starvation, the torturing, take a bit of a long time to reveal themselves. So they could be in hospital for days or weeks, but certainly there will be a reception center where they can have all the privacy they need, all the reunions they can handle, and all the love that they can be given. So as we wait for more images, perhaps, or more information about where the other 13 hostages are, we need to talk about what happens the next day, because this is a big day, but this is just the very beginning. This is phase one of a 20-point plan, the ultimate goal being peace and coexistence and governance in Gaza and a disarmed Hamas and people who have access to what they don't right now in Gaza. No clean water, no electricity, no infrastructure, no clear food supply line. So how does that happen? I spoke earlier with Janice Stein, who is the founding director of the Monk School in Toronto, and I asked her what we can expect the day after will look like in Gaza. Have a listen.
Adrienne, let's pay attention to the meeting in Cairo, which will also take place tomorrow. Two big issues that will tell us a lot. The first, what is this international stabilization force going to look like? How fast can the force get in, and how fast can a police force get in? And by the way, Canada may well contribute to that police force. Why does that matter? For two reasons. One, no further withdrawal is required of Israel until those forces go in. And Israel now still controls 50% of Gaza. The second, and you referred to this, Adrienne, there is violence in Gaza. Some of the clans and families, longstanding Palestinian families in Gaza, understand they have a very short window if they do not want Hamas back. Hamas understands that too. And we saw some pictures today of Hamas firing on Palestinians.
So I want to pick apart some of what you said there. Let's start with that, the notion of these militias, gangs, armed families, whatever you want to call them in Gaza right now. Those are pretty threatening images. What does that suggest for the future of governance there?
There is, I can only say, Adrienne, all-out struggle now between these families, clans that have taken over parts of Gaza City and principally, but other areas as well. And when Hamas was unable to show itself on the streets, these families began to dig in and began to police and patrol. Hamas came back, not wearing its uniforms, but came back. And these next 72 hours, Adrienne, if these families can withstand the pressure from Hamas, that's one future. If Hamas is able to reestablish itself on the ground in these neighborhoods in Gaza City, then it's going to be a much more difficult hill to climb, frankly.
So you've got
Palestinian politics are made on the ground, Adrienne, as you know.
I was just about to say you've got these two realities, right? You've got the one on the ground in Gaza, and then not that far away in Sharm el-Sheikh in the Sinai, you have this other one. I'm trying to figure out the Egyptian process. How does it not just stall? Because,
it can't stall, Adrienne. And it can't stall because President Trump is there. And I think it's not hard to imagine the kind of bouquets that are going to be thrown at him for his leadership, and frankly, deserved, because he did put this together. But he's aware that if this breaks apart in 30 days, there will not be much credit coming to him. So he's got a way in. He agreed to chair this board. He's trapped. He trapped himself in this, Adrienne. Yep. And he's got his finger on the scale now. So that's one. Secondly, the Egyptians, the Qataris, the Saudis, the Emiratis. This is there were a lot of people from outside, our Prime Minister Starmer, France, Germany. But the key players are the Arab players from the Arab world. They do not want to see this war start again. And ironically, Israel doesn't want to see the war start again right now.
Okay, I just have a little bit of time left, Janet, and Janice, I want to ask you about Israel. It won't be at those meetings at Sharm el-Sheikh, right? We saw the crowd booing the mere mention of Netanyahu last night. What's the political future there?
Wow, this is a really divided country. The divisions are covered over during the war, but barely, frankly. There are elections coming. Any seasoned political analyst, Adrienne would tell you he's finished. But everybody has said that about Netanyahu, not 9 times, but 19 times, and they've been wrong. He will try to claim this as a huge victory. Yeah. My instinct is the public knows better. Those who support him will support him, but people know this war was prolonged and that he resisted this as long as he could.
All right. Once again, Janice, thank you. And I want to take it back to Margaret Evans in Jerusalem. We've been talking about the transfer of the Israeli hostages. Let's talk about the Palestinian prisoners. What's happening, Margaret?
Well, we're hearing now that they are all on buses. That's including the 1,700 or so Gazan detainees who have been held without charge by Israel over the course of the war, and the 250 prisoners held in Israeli jails. We're hearing that the Gazan detainees are going to be delivered to Nasser Hospital in Han Yunis. And just to point out that that's where we saw those images earlier of the Hamas soldiers in a line, fighters with the chairs. So it is possible that they might be having a ceremony there for the returning detainees, because we're also hearing from the IDF that those 7 hostages that had been transferred had been in the Red Cross hands has been transferred to IDF control, and so therefore there wasn't that kind of parading of the hostages that we were expecting. So maybe it's something else going in Han Yunis, clearly a show of force, but maybe one of welcome home to the Palestinian detainees there.
All right, that's Margaret Evans in Jerusalem, who will be reporting in the next few days on exactly what happens next. At this moment, as we leave you, it is mid-morning in Israel and Gaza. 7 Israeli hostages have been released. Where are the other 13? We expect answers to that soon. These are delicate transfers of the most fragile of survivors into the gentlest of embraces of their families. Once all are out, you will see the release of the Palestinian prisoners, some headed for the West Bank, some to Gaza, all sure to be greeted like returning heroes. Someone else who will be received as a hero is President Trump, who is in Israel this morning, addressing the Knesset, meeting hostage families, then on to Egypt to discuss the next phase, which really is intended to be the most critical phase, the one that brings lasting peace. How this happens, who governs Gaza, does Hamas disarm, who rebuilds Gaza, who's going to be on the ground making sure that the aid is delivered safely and fairly. These are very difficult questions. Will they get resolved in Egypt? So many people are counting on that being precisely what happens, but it is only a one-day summit. It is impossible to know what's going to happen, but we're going to have our eyes on it throughout. The whole world is watching that, as are we. And I can let you know that the CBC morning team with Heather Hiscox will be back right here in just 3 hours' time at 5 a.m. Eastern with all the latest from the Middle East and around the world. I want to thank you for being with us, from all of our teams who are across the Middle East and back here at home. Thank you for being with us, from all of us at the National. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.